We will now hear remarks by Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky, Vice Chairman of Merkos Linyonei Chinuch, the educational arm of the Chabad Lubavitch movement, and the Chairman of Chabad on Campus National. Friends, it is a fact that there is no Jew today who does not, him or herself, have a personal relationship with Chabad, or does not have in his immediate or extended family someone who has that connection. In large measure, Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky is responsible for bringing the Rebbe Shluchim to every corner of the earth. Rabbi Kotlarsky spares no effort on behalf of world Jewry, traveling constantly and tirelessly, facilitating the growth of the Chabad Lubavitch network, establishing new centers, and aiding existing ones. We thank him very much for being with us here today. He's a dear personal friend who married off his own child just one night after we married off our child. He left his family, he left Sheva Brachot to be with us here today. First of all, Mazel Tov. Much, much nachas. And secondly, I ask that all of you give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Archie. Rabbis, students, donors, president, family, and all that are assembled. This is the third time that I stand here at the expansion and the opening of a Chabad center. I almost feel that I am gainfully employed here. It's a full-time job coming to the expansions of the Chabad center in Binghamton. But I'll tell you the truth, after hearing all of these speeches here today, I'm reminded of a story. I know the students wouldn't remember this. It was the days before prepackaged meat, but I'm sure that there are those that would remember it. There was the butchers that used to stand and used to hack the flesh, that they used to cut the meat, they used to prepare the orders, you know, and Thursday night was a major night when they had to prepare the orders. And there was this butcher on the Lower East Side standing there cutting the flank and making all of the different cuts of meat that all of the women needed for Shabbos. And the butcher's wife calls her up and says, Yankel, I think I'm in labor, I gotta go to the hospital. And he says, you know, I have 88 orders to do yet, I can't take you. There's no way we're gonna make it. He says, you know what, I'll call your brother, let him take you. So he calls up his brother, he says, Shimele, do me a favor, your sister's in labor, take her to the hospital. Takes her to the hospital. 2 hours later, he's standing there packaging the meat in the newspaper like they used to do it in the olden days. He says, Yankel, Mazel Tov, it's a baby boy. He says, yeah, how's my wife doing? She's doing just fine. He says, the baby, tell me, what's the color of the eyes? He says, blue. How long? 40 inches, I don't know, 40 inches maybe. Maybe, I don't know. He says, tell me, and he's packaging the meat, and he says, tell me, how much does the baby weigh? He says, 6 pounds and 13 ounces. He says, with the bones or without the bones? The truth of the matter is, everybody that spoke till now took away all the meat. Everybody stood up and they said such beautiful things. I wanted to talk about what Chabad of Binghamton means to the Jewish world. It was said. I wanted to speak about Mr. Newman. I prepared a whole speech. It was said. I wanted to speak how lucky you are today that George came. He doesn't go to, I can't get him to go anywhere to a dedication. And over here, in honor of the Slonims, he has come. I wanted to tell you how great Rabbi and Rivki are. It's been said. I wanted to tell you what kind of community house this is. It's been said. So what am I left with? I'll talk anyway. I do want to tell you, you know, when I walked in there and I took a look at this room, it reminded me of a guy that went into a shoe store and ordered a size 8 shoe. The guy takes a look at it and measures his feet, and he says, you know, he says, your foot is a size 10. He says, what should I tell you? You know, he says, I have so many things going on in my life. The only pleasure I have in my life is when I come home at night and take off my shoes. The fact of the matter is they built a size 10 building for a size 100 community. And I have to tell you, Mr. Newman, I am so impressed. I was very impressed. I was sitting next to George and I said, I've been by many openings, many ribbon cuttings, and really, I've never heard someone speak, by as we say, to the point. I just, like, said it as it is, and I could see how you just took this thing and you made it happen. And I want to give every Chabad house in the world a blessing that they should each have a Barry Newman. You know what the two of you remind me? They tell a story of a guy that came, he went to visit his prospective father-in-law to meet him for the first time to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage. So the guy comes in, stands there, he says, I'd like to marry your daughter. So he says, pray tell me, how are you going to support her? He says, well, God will help. He says, what do you plan to do for a living? He says, God will help. Where are you going to get an apartment? Where are you going to live? He says, God will help. And he goes on, everything says God will help. He walks out, and his wife calls him and he says, Jerry, tell me, what do you think of this new guy that wants to marry our daughter's prospective son-in-law? He says, I don't know, he's a great guy, much more than you could imagine. He knows me 15 minutes and already he thinks I'm God. I don't know. You're God's blessing, and you and all the donors that are here, you are God's blessing to this Chabad house. And you are God's messengers, like George so capably says, and he always says it. You have to know, George comes from Bogota, and there used to be a rabbi in Bogota. His name is Father Mr. Sammy Rohr, a true legendary visionary, the patron of the patriarch of the Rohr family. Always used to say in the name of Chacham David Sharabani, you have to have mazel to mitzvahs. When you do a mitzvah, you also need luck. And those that supported this Chabad house have that luck. So you should always continue to have mazel to the mitzvahs. Now I'd like to say a few words. Rabbi Slonim beautifully said when he opened the Chabad house, he gave the blessing which Moses gave when the first Chabad house, which was the tabernacle in the desert, was built. But he left out one part of it. He said to Linyonei, may God's glory rest. But he didn't say the words which Rashi says, and that is, Yehiratzah, may it be the will, Shatisha Shechina B'maisa Yedecha, that the divine presence should rest in the works of your hands. And the question is asked. The Jews turned to Moses and says, this is the blessing you're giving us today. May the divine presence rest in the work of your hands. What did we build it for? God said, build me a sanctuary, I will dwell amongst each and every one of you. We built it. Those that know the Bible know that the Jews brought enough money, more money than was necessary, that they had to tell them to stop. Now, if you want to get a blessing from a great rabbi, when do you need the blessing? When you're going out to raise the money. Moses gives no blessing. You need a blessing that the architect should do it right, bring it into the plans. No blessing. It should come in under cost and on time. No blessing. No blessing. Everything is finished. The Jews brought more than enough that they had to find something for the Nesiim, for the presidents of the tribes, to be able to bring. And after the Jews did everything, Moses comes and he says, may it be the will that the divine presence should rest amongst the works of your hands. The Jews said, why did we build it if not for that? The answer is that Moses wasn't talking about God. Moses turned at that point to the Jewish people and he said to them, Yehiratzah, may it be your will that the divine presence should rest amongst the works of your hands. We built a beautiful Chabad house. It is true it is small. It is true that there are 400 students that were here on Friday night this week. It is true that no one would be able to juggle a schedule of marrying off a child on Tuesday and on Thursday having the mitzvah on with 2,000 people passing by and doing a mitzvah, and have a Friday night and do a dedication in 1 week like Rabbi and Rebbetzin Slonim are capable of doing, Rabbi and Rivki Slonim are capable of doing. I don't know, it's only godly. But now it comes to you, it's Yehiratzah, may it be your will that this continues.